That's how you do it. Welcome back, guys. This is BJ from Real World Guitar, and I'm excited about this video today. This is one I've been wanting to do for a long time, not only because it's just an amazing song in its own right for a number of reasons, but I actually got the opportunity a little over a year ago to play with Curt Smith from Tears for Fears at a charity event in Boston. I got to play this song in particular. It was pretty awesome, but I did a deep dive of my own into everything about this tune, all the guitar parts, pretty much all of the parts in general, and I would like to share with you what I learned from that experience. So let's dig in and check it out. So that riff is iconic. It's awesome in its own right. But before we dig into exactly what's going on in there, I just want to talk about the song as a whole a little bit. Musically speaking, it's in the key of D major, and everything kind of sticks around that. There's some cool changes, there's some different parts, there's a lot of really interesting rhythmic things going on. But we generally speaking, we stay in the key of D major and kind of accent different things or pull out different chords in that key.
All right, guys, a very quick sidebar here for a second. I had every intention of talking about this in the original video and then completely spaced. But if you've ever tried to play along with the original album recording of Everybody Wants to Rule the World, you've probably noticed something sounds a little bit suspicious or just a little bit off. And that actual original track is slightly sharp. It's like a quarter step sharp from standard tuning. This type of thing's not uncommon in older recordings, like 50s, 60s, 70s recordings, but you hear it even into the 80s, throughout the early 90s. Sometimes musicians in the studio would just tune to a reference pitch, so if someone was slightly off from standard, everybody would be in tune with each other, and the track sounds great, but it's slightly sharp or flat from standard tuning. Another explanation could be that the tape, because they actually recorded to tape, was sped up slightly, just slightly. It's not a fast tune to begin with, but that would also cause the track to be slightly sharp. So if you're trying to play along with the album, you're gonna wanna tune your guitar basically in between standard tuning and a half step up. I would use your ear, just grab that intro riff and try to match those pitches, and then you tune your guitar to that so that you're not frustrated and hearing that nasty kind of sour sound as you try to play along with the original one. So keep that in mind. Thanks.
This particular riff stays in that vein as far as the notes we're actually playing. We're going to be playing the 7th fret on the B string, which is an F sharp, 5th fret on the high E, which is an A, and then we're also going to be adding the B note in there. So in the key of D, we've got a major 3rd, a 5th, and then a 6th on top. If you don't know all of your theory, don't worry about that. It's not important necessarily that you know that to play the riff. What is kind of important to know is that the song sits right around 112 beats per minute, somewhere in that. Don't put a metronome to that, but it's right in that. But what's interesting about this riff is that it's 8th note triplet. So it's 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, da, 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 which gives it that kind of groove. Now, what's really interesting about this riff is the way that our ear picks out some of these notes. Kind of hear dun, 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 dun. We're hearing different accented notes within those triplets, but we're actually, the riff itself is a group of 6 notes, a reoccurring 6-note riff over 2 beats. So what you're doing here, there's actually like a little quick little synth fill in there to kick off the song, but we're going to slide up to that 7th fret on the B string, and that's our 6 notes. So the first triplet, or first 3 notes, is 7 on the B, up to 5 on the A, and then back to 7 on the B. And then after that, then we've got 7 on the high E, 7 on the B, and 5 on the high E. So the first one, second one. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. That's kind of the vibe of the whole thing. In that intro riff, just slightly muted on the B and the E string. And as we get to the end of it, you can let up on that and it kind of opens the riff up a little bit. So again, key of D, that riff is all in the B and the E string, 7th fret on the B, and then alternating kind of between the 5th and the 7th fret on the high E. Make sure you're palm muting it a little bit on the high E and the B string with your right hand, and then you can let off on that as it goes into the verse to let it open up. Give that a shot. Once we hit the verse itself, it's actually pretty straightforward as far as a guitar part. We're just playing this 2-note riff, these little dyads or 2-note patterns here. We're going to play the 2nd fret on the G and the B strings, and then the open G and B string. So it's kind of implying almost like an A chord to a G, but there's a low D underneath the whole thing. So the bass is kind of rocking away on a D note. And then over the top of that, we're putting just that 2nd fret to open on the G and the B string. So again, it's kind of like with the D and the bass, we've got an A chord over D and then a G over D. And that's it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So your first verse, very straightforward. That's all you have to worry about. Again, just the A to a G all over that D note. You don't even have to play the D on guitar. It's just those 2 chords. Then, as we get into the first chorus of the song, it's actually fairly straightforward as well. The chords themselves starts on the 2 chords, so an E minor in the key of D, then to a 3 chord, F sharp minor, 4 chord, G, then we're going to go back to the 3 chord, the F sharp minor, and then it's going to kind of walk up, E minor, F sharp minor, G, and if we want to get picky about it, he's playing, this is Roland, his guitar part, but he's playing, well, an open E minor chord, but as he moves up, he's playing bar chord versions of everything else, and it sounds to me like he's actually just playing 5 strings, so from the A string up to the E string. So we got E minor, and then F sharp minor, but I'm not barring off the whole thing, I'm actually just kind of muting that low E string and just playing 5 strings. Then the G, same thing, back to F sharp minor. Now, I'm not going to get too bogged down on all these parts, but it sounds like way in the back on the album version, there's also like a slightly muted guitar that's playing, think just power chords. So it's like you get that big chord, 3, 4, but you also get 1. Following the same chords all throughout the chorus. But what I would focus on is just playing the full bar chord version minus the low E, because the bass is going to take care of that note. Pretty sure that's how Roland plays it in the live versions as well. And it's just a nice clean sound and kind of just little, almost like chord stabs. You let them ring out, don't stop them short, but it's just the first 4 chords are a full measure, whole notes, then it goes to half notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's it for the first chorus. One of the things that's really, really cool from a songwriting standpoint, and why, in addition to a lot of stuff, but why I really dig this song, is that it builds in such a cool way. So that first chorus is really stripped down. It's just those. When we get to some of the later choruses, I'll show you the riff now just so we can dig into it. When we get to some of those later choruses, there's also another little lick that comes over the top of those. So you Let me go back to a slightly more distorted sound. Not crazy, but yeah, so it's E minor, and then F sharp, and then these little two notes. Again, this, it looks like a B minor, which is the relative minor of D major, so it makes sense, but the notes we're playing are actually out of a D major chord on the top here. So 2nd fret on the high E, 3rd fret on the B string, 2 of those, and then we're gonna jump down to 3rd fret on the B and 4th fret on the G. And then, kind of a call and response, the next lick is you're gonna bar off the 2nd fret on the G and the B string, and then you're gonna add the 3 and the 4th, 3rd fret on the B and the 4th fret on the G again. So it alternates between those two. And this is in the 2nd chorus. So that's a cool lick, and I want to talk about it as we go because he adds even more rhythmic variation to that lick as the song goes on. So not only we have a first chorus that's just the chords, then we have the second chorus that has the chords with that lick in there. It's interesting, the third chorus of the song actually goes back to being just the chord, so it takes that lick out, and then later it gets kind of reinserted and amped up a little bit as he adds some extra strums or extra rhythmic punches in there. But that's a really cool lick to add in there. Sometimes if I'm playing it solo, I'll even try to add the bass note. So normally somebody would be playing those chords, and then somebody else is playing that lick in response. But if you're solo or you're trying to cover a lot of ground as just one guitar player, you could play just the bass notes to those. So E, F sharp, G, then F sharp, and then don't do it like that. But you see what I'm saying here is that if you don't have somebody to cover that ground in both, that's kind of a cool way to take care of both of those parts. So think about that, weigh it out, give that a shot next time you're playing the chorus to that song. Now, as we're talking about the song building, the second verse is actually kind of cool too because there's an extra lick behind that as well. So normally our first verse was just what we were doing here, Now, after your first chorus of the song, it goes back to a verse, but it kind of does like an instrumental transition. So you get that same thing with some of those extra rhythmic stabs on the open D string. So same lick we played before, 2nd fret on the G and the B to open on the G and the B. But then you're getting, it's basically the first and third note of a triplet. Da, 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 da. So instead of one triplet, da, 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 you're hearing the first and the third. And he's also got like I think an 8th note or a 16th note triplet delay in there. So on the album, you kind of hear the notes bouncing around a little bit. But same thing, second verse, you lead into it with the same riff you had played. But we're adding that open D string, like 3 groups of 2. Now, that continues into the verse, which is awesome, right? It's already building a little bit. But additionally, we get this other kind of octave lick over the top or behind it, however you want to think about it. And again, it's just a D. It's just, which makes a lot of sense. We're in the key of D, the bass is playing D, but I'm not going to bog you down with all of the rhythmic notation, but keep in mind we've still got triplets, but he's leaving certain ones out. So we get a group of 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a group of 4 and a group of 2. Da 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 da, and that's in there, and that's kind of, I shouldn't say it's heavily accented, but you definitely hear it. That's when, so you've got the instrumental transition with the open D string, and it's 2 of those. And then when they go into the verse, that gets added into the mix. So again, our second verse has built from the first one. The choruses keep building up, so the song just keeps getting bigger as you go, and there's all these cool rhythmic things that are happening. It's really interesting, and it's like a masterclass in songwriting as far as the music and the arrangement of the song itself, the way it builds. So keep that in mind and give that lick a shot. All right. So as I mentioned before, the third chorus, as you know, we're talking about building, the third chorus actually pulls it back slightly for a second and just kind of goes back to straight ahead chords at that point. But what's interesting is from there, it has this cool contrast because it goes into a bridge at that point. And this is a new section for us. So it gets like this definitely more distorted guitar, kind of almost like real edgy hard rock guitar comes in. And I guess I would call this bridge 1 or the first bridge of the song. This is there's a room where the light won't find you, that whole section. But it comes in on a G power chord up at the 10th. I play it up on the 10th fret on the A string. And then we're going to a D. And then an A power chord. So the D power chord is on the 10th fret of the E string, and the A is going to be actually at the 12th fret of the A string, so it's the highest of the power chords. And then you can kind of move that back down to that G where you started. So 4. And then that, it's already syncopated. We're playing those on the upbeats, but what's really interesting there is that it feels like it's rushed, or it's kind of pushed ahead when it goes back to that G. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're rushing back to get to that G on the 10th fret. The only time it doesn't do that is coming out of that bridge section when it goes into the chorus. So the I guess it would be the 4th time through. Goes back into a chorus, it doesn't rush into the chorus. So the chorus comes in on the 1 where you would expect it to. So here you go for the bridge. And then into the next chorus from there. And at this point in the song, we get, I guess, what I would call bridge 2, or like this musical interlude, where the guitar is actually just playing that interlude. For a long time. It's like, I didn't even count how many measures, but there's a lot going on. What's interesting is behind it, the chords change up a little bit, or at least the bass notes. It's G, D, A, G. Now, mind you, the guitar itself is still playing this lick over the whole thing, but it's basically 4 passes through that. D, A, G. And on the last one, or the 4th time, it's D, A, and then we're going to go to a B minor, or a B bass note, and then like a C, or I played a C add 9, but B minor, C. And then what's interesting is then it's a G to an A. For the sake of the video, I'm not going to play that entire part, because literally, again, your guitar part is just... But it gets some interesting stuff going on behind it, because it's G, D, A, G, and then later on it's B minor, then C, And you'll hear the change in there. You'll hear it going on in that part of the song. But just know that you're going through that. It starts on a G, but the D, A, G bass notes 4 times, and then the B or B minor to C is going to be 3 passes through, and that's going to lead us into the first solo of the song. Again, if you're just playing guitar on it, you're really playing that lead lick the whole time. But you want to be aware of the bass notes in the background so that you know when that solo is coming up. And much like the intro, when you're playing this, he kind of takes that palm muting off right as we lead into the solo, so that also gives you a little extra audio cue that like we're getting into this next section. So that part's not too bad as far as guitar. It's just understanding how the structure works there, and let's check out the solo. I really dig this solo. It's like rhythmically super cool and interesting. It's not crazy and shreddy or technically challenging, although it is tough to lock in these rhythms. But keep in mind, with everything that we've been doing so far, this still has that triplet feel to it. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The very first lick, or actually, why don't I just play through the solo real quick so you can see it and hear it, and then we'll kind of break down some of those sections. So it's a lot of the shapes and tonality that we're used to hearing, and even some of the rhythm, but just the syncopation and the interesting rhythms that Roland plays on this. I think he played it on the original album. I know I've seen him play it on old live videos. We're using some of the same 2-note patterns, those dyads, those little intervals, basically major thirds and minor thirds all over the place. But we're playing the 2nd fret on the G and the B string, and then the 3rd fret on the B with the 4th fret on the G. And again, it's triplets. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. But that first pass is just, again, 2nd fret, then the 3rd and 4th fret, and it's effectively 2, 3, 2, or low, high, low. And then, here's where it gets cool. That lick continues, but what he does is then he just alternates between the two, back and forth, but still in triplet form. So the first one is basically the higher of the two, and then the second one starts with the lower of the two. So it's 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. So he goes from basically playing a 3-note pattern, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, to playing a 2-note pattern back and forth, but still phrased in triplets. So again, all together you've got. And then leading into the next lick. Same general setup, but now we're just playing the one that was more built out of what we thought of as the D chord. So the 2nd fret on the high E and the 3rd fret on the B, down to 3 on the B and 4 on the G, and then the same kind of lick, but from the 2nd fret on the G and the B string up to the 3rd and the 4th fret. So. And then he goes back and forth between those two. So what I would suggest, because I'm not going to notate all of it here for you rhythmically, I just want to point out what you should be listening for. Take the solo and slow it down with what I've said in mind. So you hear these, that the triplets continue, but the way the notes are grouped changes up, which is really, really cool. So. Then he moves to a lick that's on the high E and the B strings up the 10th fret, 10, 7, 5, and 7. So again, just. Slide sliding between 10th fret, 7th fret, 5th fret. Now the trickiest lick to me in this, because it's literally a position shift, is that little thing that he does there, which is kind of like the second to last lick in there. So you're coming off the 10th fret slidey part, and then it's 5 to 7, and then the 2 and 2 to 3 and 4. But he decreases the time in between the notes. So again, listen to the album for the rhythmic variations, but you've got 5, 7, and then the 2 up to 3 and 4. And then it's a little more rushed. So all together. So really cool and funky. And then the very end of it is back to the same sort of lick we had in the verse. So we've got... So same thing. Bum, ba, ba, bum, bum, ba, ba, bum, da, 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 da. So again, all these triplets, but just decreasing the time between the notes. But all still working out of this same D major tonality. Some of it looks like B minor, if that helps you to think or visualize where the notes are. But really just pay attention to the triplets and the syncopation and some of just the weird groupings of notes, because it's a really, really cool solo, so it's worth the time to get that one right. So coming out of that solo, the last little bit that happens, we have a few more choruses. But now, everything's basically the same. We're not going to waste your time on more choruses, but just keep in mind the cool lick that we talked about earlier sort of intensifies. We still got E minor to F sharp, and we've got this lick. But now, he adds 2 of that sort of second variation, like the B section of the lick. So. Now here it gets weird. For what I would call, I think it's like the 5th chorus of the song we're on at this point. So he's got the added variation of some of the extra rhythm in that lick, and then he literally moves that whole thing up a 4th. So the leading into it, we're going to play 3rd fret on the high E and 5th fret on the B string, and just walk it up a fret at a time. So we're going to go chromatically, and then basically back to our main riff, or our intro riff, that lick up at the 10th fret now. So we got 12 on the B, and then 10 on the high E, and then we're adding the 12th fret on the high E. So just, again, I would suggest as much as possible, go back and listen to the album with this stuff in mind, or listen to the track. But what we've got is we're coming out of that chorus after the solo. Now, while that lick is going on an octave up, the chords in the back actually stay the same. So we've still got the E minor, F sharp minor, G. So the chorus foundation is the same, but he just moves the lick up a 4th and plays it over that, and then we actually come back to a chorus again, and then as we lead out of this chorus, there's a little, it's like a very short lead break. So there's this cool little lead break in between the last 2 choruses of the song. The backing track, or the bass and everything behind it, rhythmically is kind of doing what it did in the musical interlude. So there's like a G, D, A, G. But as far as the lead guitar part, you're gonna pre-bend the 5th fret on the B string and release it. And then just 3, 5, 3. So again, Key of D, it all makes sense. It's D, E, and when we bend it up, it's an F sharp. So it's literally the first, second, and third note in a D major scale. But it's cool. It comes in kind of loud. And with that pre-bend, it almost sounds to me like he plucks it. I do with my index finger. It's a subtle lick, but it's awesome, and it fills the space perfectly. So that's in between those last two choruses. Then we've got a chorus, and then we got the big outro solo. So let's dig in. Let's check it out because it's awesome. So there's just so much awesomeness in this solo. I was more of like a hard rock, shreddy kid growing up when I was learning this stuff. But man, that lead is just cool as heck. And my battery died. That's so sad. So after a devastating battery dying, camera crashing, right in the big moment, we are back for the big outro solo. Let's do it. That solo is awesome, and it's wild and angular and funky and does some really interesting things guitar-wise. So let's dig into what's going on there. This is coming out of that last chorus, and we build, and he's got some, like, he's still playing a Strat. It's got a Stratty sound to it, but a lot more gain on there, like, kind of just nasty sound. And you can actually find the isolated guitar track on YouTube, and it's like, it's raunchy, and you hear everything that's going on. It's very cool. So that lick leading into it is just unusual right off the bat. There's definitely some open strings in there, and I'm going to leave this up to your own interpretation. So what I tend to play is he pulls off from the 10th fret on the high E to an open E string, which is, I'm almost certain that's what's going on, to the 10th fret on the B string. Then he hits the 9th fret on the E, the E note, 9th fret on the G string. And this is, the next note is, I can't tell if it's an open string or if it's the 9th fret on the D string. So it's a B note. And then he jumps up to the 7th fret on the B string. So that's how I tend to play it, with a little bit of muting on those lower strings, like on the D string. But if you told me he played that B open on the B string, so like, I would believe that too, because some of the notes in that, some more of the notes in that sound like they could potentially be open strings too, which is just a weird lead lick, but it's cool. So we're still working generally out of D major. So all of the notes make sense, but it's just a weird, like, kind of like, again, angular, like, approach, and he's digging in really hard, and he's got a ton of distortion, and it's just cool, and it's an unusual sound. So it's like, really, really dig what he's got going on this one. And then you hang on that 7th fret on the B string with a bunch of vibrato and slide out of it. And then this next lick is sort of out of kind of the position behind that, which again, we're still working out of D major primarily. He does hit a C note in here, which is a little more like Mixolydian kind of vibe, but it works, absolutely works. It's very cool. So 4th fret on the G, and then quick muted string, hammer on, pull off, 4-5-4, and then down to the 7th fret on the D and back. And then he kind of does that same tail end of that lick again. And then the way I hear it is he jumps kind of back up to our typical 7th fret, like D major, B minor pentatonic shape. So coming out, I would shift out of that first lick, or the second lick of the solo. And then just typical blues lick, 9 on the D, and then 7, 9 on the G. And you're gonna bend that and add ridiculous amounts of vibrato. And again, you can kind of hear it on the album, like the note, like just the sound. It gets a little buzzy and there's a lot going on, but it's just cool. It's like aggressive and it's got some attitude. And then he gets into this kind of slidey lick that moves around. Which again, all fits right in D major, so it all makes sense, but it's just a unique approach. It's not your typical like straight up and down a scale thing like a lot of guitar players do. So we're starting on the D note, 7th fret on the G, sliding 5 to 7 on the D, and then actually the same notes but an octave up, which is just 8 to 10 on the B string. So the note is G to A. And then jumping up to the D note, so the 10th fret on the E string, and then you're going to bend it up a whole step. Now the hardest thing about this for me is that you bend that up and then immediately go to a bend on the G. So, in context, get those slides, D note, and then right to the G string, you're bending the 7th fret, up a whole step and back down, then you hit the 7th fret on the D, and then same thing on the 9th fret. So 7th fret, whole step bend, 7th fret on the D, then 9th fret on the G, whole step bend, back to that 7. So, just so we don't lose track, or I don't lose track of where we are, coming out of that other lick. And then this is more like a quarter note triplet vibe over the top. This like again just funky, like the word that keeps coming to mind is angular, because it's sort of aggressive and the notes jump around in a interesting pattern for just, it's not what you typically see in a good way. But yeah, so get those bends. Not that. Dun, 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 dun. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but that gets to be kind of quarter note triplets, so it's like they're slower and you're fitting 6 of those notes in the span of 4 beats. And the lick itself is just 8, 7, 10 on the B string, and then up to 9 on the high E, which is like the major 7 in that key. And then a little half step bend up to D and back down. So. And then you land on the major 3rd, which is the 7th fret of the B string. So. And then this is where the solo tends to trail off. I usually kind of try to cop the next lick too. It's another one of those open string licks. I hear the open G, and I think he hammers on to the D, and then actually maybe catches the open G again. And then big bend on the 8th fret of the B string, so you got whole step bend. And then you end on the 7th fret of the D string. So let me see if I can string a couple of those together so it makes sense in context. And there's a little more, there's some like little pull-off licks going out, but at that point, it's really fading out and we're kind of deep into it. So that's what I would try to get down in that solo. So you get the intro with the open pull-offs, like the 10th fret to the open pull-off. That's like like 1. Then hammer-on pull-off lick on the G. Back to your standard like D major, B minor position. Then we got our little slidey lick. Bend on the high E. And then this is where you jump right to those other bends on the G. Then the quarter note triplets. And then the little hammer on open G to 7th fret lick. Big bend on the B string, 8th fret. And then the 7th fret on the D. Lots of gain, copious amounts of like really like kind of frantic vibrato. It's just like, it's nasty, it's got attitude, the really cool note choice. And I think Roland plays this one too. So it's like, he was someone who I always really dug as a songwriter, even when I was a kid. Like, I didn't know specifically as much about music, but I always loved the tunes. And as I got older and started learning some of the guitar parts, I was like, what the heck is going on? There's some really, really interesting stuff happening there. So that is like a masterclass in how to take something simple, D major, just a groove in D major, and write a really, really excellent guitar solo over it. So go check some of that stuff out. All right, so as we wrap this one up, the video's already long enough, so if you made it this far, I'm gonna have you stick around for a story. Because as I mentioned in the beginning, I did get the opportunity to literally play with Curt Smith in Boston at Fenway Park, of all places. It was a charity event for a summer camp in the area. It was a fundraiser, and he and his daughter, Diva, were kind of the main event, the special guests for the night. And through a good musician friend of mine from the area, I got the call to play some guitar in the backing band for the night, which was awesome. It was a lot of fun. Played some of Diva's tunes, which were fantastic as well. And then we wrapped up the night with this one, with Everybody Wants to Rule the World. So it was just it was a cool opportunity for me. I've played forever and I've toured. I lived in Nashville for a while. I did some touring down there, so I've played with a lot of artists. But to literally be playing Everybody Wants to Rule the World with Curt Smith was just, that's one of those opportunities that doesn't roll your way all the time. So I'm super thankful for it. It was really cool. I think I'm missing a big marketing opportunity here to tell everybody that I played with Tears for Fears at Fenway Park. That's not exactly what happened, but I did get to play with Curt Smith at an event room at Fenway Park in the off season, and it was awesome, and it was super, super cool, and I will be forever thankful for that. And hopefully for you learned something today. I put a lot of time into this one, so I'm confident that we're 97% of the way there. He may do a few things differently on guitar, but this stuff is pretty darn close. So feel free to go back through this video a few times. Definitely leave comments or questions below if there's anything you're still not sure about. I'm happy to try to answer them and clear it up. But I appreciate you taking the time to watch this. This is a pretty thorough video. We did a real deep dive today. But it was fun for me, and I hope you guys dug it too. And if there's other tunes too that you want to hear, or you want like the same kind of dissection, you want to go really deep on some of them, let me know those too, and we will do them next time around. Until then, enjoy. Happy guitaring.